Reiner.
Welcome back to AI and Finance, where we like to distill all the fury of news around AI and understand what it is, what it means, and how to apply it specifically to wealth management. And this month specifically, we're going to look at 3 stories that are really integrated around this idea of how AI is continuing to evolve and how people are getting more comfortable with AI in their own lives, and how they're allowing their lives to be associated with AI in areas where we thought at first we may never associate AI. And so that's what we're going to dive into today. So we're going to start with this headline of Claude Code. Claude Code, remember, is a tool built by Anthropic. So Claude is like an LLM, just like ChatGPT is. And what they recently did is that they launched these Claude Code Security, which triggered, if you were following it or were invested in any cybersecurity stocks, they took a tumble on this news, because what it is that Claude Code Security now allows for both developers and IT professionals to monitor code to see if there's any vulnerabilities within the code. And why is this important? Because how this is being done today in the world of coding for products and softwares is that you have human developers going line by line, looking at differentials of code to see if there's anything different or vulnerable going on, if there's anything worrisome. And now with Claude Code Security, you have the ability to have an agent that's able to go and reason, and it's not just rules-based. Now, granted, there was software, and there has been software around that's helped coders and software engineers do this more proactively and efficiently. And the thing about it is that it was mainly rules-based. If this, then that. Remember, that is a former way of doing AI that's not as intelligent and not as advanced. And there's still some mistakes. There's no ability to reason. That was the beauty of what happened with LLMs. And so with Claude Code Security, what's now really happening is that you have the ability to reason. The agent is able to scan technologies, scan code bases, scan penetration tests, do penetration tests within industries, and understand and reason through what these mean. And it's not just an if this, then that. You don't have to give it all the rules. It's able to intelligently understand based off of its knowledge base of everything that it's learned from. And so that is really important. And what it can mean for us in this industry is, especially as we are thinking and moving towards building our own AI technology and being able to build AI agents within our businesses, how do we get them to review to make sure that no client data is exposed or no potential intrusions into other databases are exposed? If we're doing it on our own, now we have that ability. So we have the ability to build more securely. We also have the ability to leverage Claude to help us with penetration tests to see if there's any exposures within our business and how we're saving data, how we're managing data, how we're building our infrastructure. We have a simple tool that we now are able to interact with. Now, of course, I think some of us are thinking like, well, if Claude Code builds me the agent and then I have Claude Code do the security analysis, like, is there going to be some overlying issues there? And I think that there's some validity to that argument. But the challenge is, or the beauty of it is that this thing is continuously learning every day. And although it's not going to be perfect, and we have to remember, AI is not perfect. There still is a need to have human oversight. So if you're building your own technology or you still have penetration tests that you're using Claude Code Security for, it's still recommended that you still use like an IT company or have a software engineer to review things. But can we expedite their abilities to find these vulnerabilities, to be able to review it faster, to get the information quicker, to make changes a lot more elaborate and without having as much time dedicated to it? So when they launched this, what Claude Code Security found was they found actually over 500 vulnerabilities in some open source code. Open source code is just a fancy word for software engineers that can go and create a program and then allow the entire universe to use it as they wish and update it, etc. And so this security measure found 500 vulnerabilities really quickly in some of these codes. And I think that is something that shows the advancements of a tool, because there was nobody at Claude writing the rules on this. They allowed the AI to be intelligent and reason through it. And so why does it matter for us in wealth management? Why does all this nerdy talk that I'm saying matter for us in wealth management? Well, one, it matters from an investment standpoint, right? We have to think about what we are investing in, knowing that the ability to do security reviews is quicker, simpler, and now being able to be owned by a company like Anthropic. When we go and look at other companies that are out there, there's this one company called JFrog, which dropped over 20% in the day that Claude Code Security launched this. So there's an investment thing that we need to watch on this. I think that that's a lot of what AI is understanding AI helps us understand how to position portfolios. But I also think about like security backlogs. Like if you are running, which you should be running on an annual basis, penetration tests, security analysis of your infrastructure, of your environment from Microsoft Outlook or Google, whatever you're using, you should be running analysis on that every time. I think that now you can run it even more frequently than once a year. You can run it once a quarter. And what does that do? That creates some even greater sense of security. You're able to find things faster and cut off, bad actors quicker if they have intruded into your systems. So that's a really big thing. And especially if you are someone that is looking to build out some AI technology within your business or use AI to build some technology solutions, this is a way to do it. I think that this is also for third-party risk assessment, right? For third-party vendors. It's now, SEC is monitoring how we judge and assess third-party technologies. And so now we can ask, and we can do this on our own potentially, of these vendors to get an analysis. We can see the output, we can see the input, and it should make it easier for third-party technologies to provide us a risk assessment. So SOC 2 is how we all look at it from an analysis standpoint. If you don't know about that, your chief compliance officer likely knows about that, and that's how you analyze judging it. It's now gotten even easier, and we should be able to get more depth into the security infrastructure of these technologies. And I think that also we think about what this means for us is like our security budget has to adjust now, right? Our security budgets are going to evolve because it's now cheaper for us to maintain security. And so it doesn't mean that we have to get rid of our IT team. I'm not suggesting that. And I don't think Claude Code Security is even suggesting that. It just gives them another tool to make them 10x, right? That is the thing about AI that we have to remember is AI is not replacing people. It's replacing time of things that people are doing today for them to do more of what they want to do, right? John Maynard Keynes, I just read this from our chief investment officer recently here at our firm. John Maynard Keynes back in the early 1900s said that by the year 2000, work weeks based on what people are going to need to work to produce output is going to be 15 hours. There's a lot of people out there probably saying, well, that'd be fantastic, right? But we're still working 40 hours. And why is that? It's because Keynes did not take into account the human desire for more. He didn't take into account the human desire for more, meaning we all want more, right? Yes, we've got more efficient. The things we're doing today are not what we did back in the 1900s, but we're doing more because we want to produce more, we want to generate more, we want to create more value. And I think that that's the same thing with AI, right? This is another example of AI taking away processes that may have been done by a human, and that creates a fear that those humans are going to be eliminated from the workforce. But what we aren't realizing as humans is that we have a desire for more. And if we take away one thing that they're doing, we're going to create something else for them to do, because not only do we want to be just as secure as we are today, we want to be more secure than we are today. And so we're going to do more security, and we're going to need more people, and those people are still going to have jobs. And so that's something just to continuously remember. And so can you do with this? Well, I would strongly encourage you to share this with your IT team, and whether it's an outsourced team or an internal team, and get their feedback. Ask them the simple question, what does this mean to us? And then ask a follow-up question, how might we use this to better evolve our security infrastructure as an organization? Those would be two things that I would think about. And then I would talk to your investment committee and your investment team and start looking at some of these security stocks and seeing if it's in anybody's portfolios and determining whether they still make a fit or not, given these advancements that AI is now creating. That's another idea of what you can do with that. And finally, I would take a look at your cybersecurity policy and how you are doing security management. If you're developing code, I would spend time really looking in this, but I would take time to look at your cybersecurity policy and just make sure that it's covering that and seeing how this could fit in to help alleviate or to accelerate some of the value that cyber policy is providing. All right. So the market tells us really everything that we need to know. That things happen in the market maybe before we realize them in our real lives or in our everyday lives. And one thing that is happening right now is an AI system, an AI technology company that's trying to replace something that is always so close to home, something so sacred for us to share that we believe we need to drive and go into an old building that has minimal windows and sit in a waiting room for 20 hours, basically, waiting to talk to a doctor that sees us for 5 minutes and then we go home. Our health. That's what this AI company's superpower is doing. Superpower is an AI health platform. Think about your last physical exam. A doctor probably interrupted you within 11 seconds of describing symptoms and told you exactly what was wrong. Well, that's an issue of them not listening, the empathy, right? We talk about the empathy gap a lot on the Future Proof Advisor podcast, but now then they provide you a prescription for what you need. They provide you with a list of symptoms to be aware of, and they get you on your way and you're done. Now AI is able to do that within seconds. The ability to not only take blood tests and read blood tests within, sometimes it takes months for your doctors to read it or weeks for them to read it. Now AI is allowing for you to get the blood test results quicker, analyze better, and with a plan forward of how to improve those, what they're called biomarkers, quicker. That's what superpower is doing. And the thing that always frustrated me, or frustrates me about doctors at least, is I feel like I am telling them the same thing every time I go in, that there is no persistent memory. And so what the beauty of superpower, what they have created on the AI front is that they have now persistent memory of everything that you have done within your health life forever. What changes you made, what vitamins you've taken, what vitamins you stopped taking, what new vitamins you replaced, what your goals are, what your health biomarkers were, what the trend is, what your ultimate goal is, when you were sick, when you've been healthy, what you've been eating, whatever it is. It now has persistent memory across all of that. Going from the age that you start, 20, to the age that you pass, 120, hopefully, right? Now it has that ability. And so this company launched recently, had $30 million as a Series A funding to launch, and it now tests 100 of these biomarkers, and which is usually your doctor only tests 20, and it maintains that persistent memory. It calculates your biological age, your overall health score, and it gamifies the whole process. But it's all driven off of AI code. AI generated it, 140,000 lines of code AI generated, reviewed by humans. And the price of this is $199 a year. We talk about the cost of healthcare and how can we help provide healthcare to more individuals. You think about $199, the ability of leveraging AI to provide this type of insight gives more people access to healthcare. Now, there's an argument, very valid argument for sure, of whether this is good, if the healthcare is right. But if it's providing some insight in some direction, that may be better than no direction and no insight. But there is a caveat, there is a real limitation, right? That what happened is that there was a situation where the AI didn't connect the dots on something, that the person was recently sick, and then they looked at their biomarkers and they saw their biomarkers spiked in a certain biomarker. This is getting into the weeds of something I have no idea about, but something spiked and told them to take a certain over-the-counter drug to reduce that. But what the AI didn't understand is that it was because they were just recently sick. They weren't able to have that. But what that fault shows is that there still is a need for a human. But think about this. If you can have AI help you analyze thousands of people's of health records very quickly, and your job is just to review different triggers on that and then provide human oversight or human in the loop. Now you're able to serve more people by having the benefit of AI with the insight and intellect of a human, of oversight and knowledge and being able to understand and be aware, contextually aware of everything, and now serve more people. And I think that at the core, and you probably heard it 1,000 times, is the root excitement around AI. If you pull all those three things apart, you start to get fear. Well, now AI is doing all this health stuff. So what does that mean for doctors? And that's bad for doctors. Or for humans, are they getting better health service, right? Or are they serving too many people? But if you put it together, that's where the value is. And I think that too many people look at the individual silos of the value, but the true combination of all of it is really where the value is. And so for wealth managers, I think that that's one of the main points. We have to be understanding that what we thought was untouchable is becoming touchable by AI. And it's showing in health, right? I think that we also think about insurance premiums, right? I think that the ability of AI to help with health, when we think about financial planning, it could start to lower it. And think about the accessibility, right? The cost of healthcare continues to go up. And we've needed some innovation to help figure out how do we stop that spike. And this may be it, which would then drastically change healthcare premiums, which would drastically change spending, which would drastically change financial planning. And then if you think about longevity and it creates longevity, then now we have another opportunity within life planning and longevity and financial planning as well. And you think about estate planning, right? That's what I was just alluding to. It does impact estate planning, living longer potentially. But I think that the most important aspect to me is the accessibility to potentially good healthcare to more people. That's super powerful. And think about what that could mean from within a wealth management business to be able to create something like this, not for everybody, but for some people to provide more access to more people of financial wellness concepts to help them become on a path to financial security and financial prosperation. That to me is super impactful. That's really, really interesting. So what does this mean for us to go, and do? I think that first and foremost, I think what I would take away from this is think about our processes that we have. What are some of those processes where a human we think needs to be like doing it all that we can start eliminate? And all you need to do is just start listing those processes out. Because what this is showing is that there are some processes that we thought could not be done by AI that now are being done by AI and people are accepting of it. Right? So think about those processes that are continuous and repetitive and just list those out. Secondly, I would go and learn about this. I think that you're going to find that in all my action items is go and spend some time beyond just listening to me and learn a little bit about superpower, AI, and start just playing around with it. Because I'll tell you, this idea of a health operating system is happening, whether it's superpower or it's Whoop or it's one of them. And so you want to understand that for your clients' benefits because there may be some potential benefits for your clients that you can offer them. And then finally, I would just say have an open mind. Have an open mind because if we're not using AI, we need to start using it a little bit more because what this is showing is that people are comfortable with it in things that are maybe not traditional use cases for technology. So the health platform story really kind of moves us into the next story with what are we going to do with AI? And there's one company out there that we have talked about a lot within the circles of AI about what are they doing? That's been the narrative. What are they doing? And that's Apple. And I think it finally came out recently of what Apple is doing with AI. Everybody's wondering, well, when is Apple going to create their next LLM? Like all the news, if you've read about it and the stock, if you're all over the stock, you've seen it kind of be volatile of like their AI team is in disarray. They don't know what they're doing. They can't create, AI for Siri. Now they're partnering with Google. And it's been a complete cluster. And from an outsider, it looks like it. But if you now see from the news, you get a peer into the behind the curtain of what's happening. Apple does not care about the LLM. That's the downright bottom line. Apple does not care about owning an LLM. They've never cared about really owning the software. The App Store is an ecosystem that they wanted to own. They don't care about that. They are a hardware business that they want to be ingrained and installed into everybody's everyday life to allow them to utilize the apps on your Apple iPhone. Not many of us use the Apple apps. We download other apps. If Apple really cared about software, they would force us to use only the Apple apps. Instead, they said, I don't care. I'm going to make it easy for you to access whatever you need on my hardware. And now your life is built around my hardware. And we saw that recently with some headlines of what Apple's doing in the AI wearable space, whether it's a pendant, they're doing glasses. I think they're coming out with some other type of hardware as well. They want to ingrain Apple into your hardware and what you interact with and use on a daily basis and allow you to access all of the AI tools and your daily needs from those systems. If it's powered by OpenAI, great. If it's powered by Google Gemini, fantastic. If it's powered by Anthropic, who cares? And eventually it'll likely be you can power it by whoever you wish. They don't care. They want to own everything that you use that's non-software, because you're still going to need to access all these things, right? So they they are like positioned as the Switzerland of AI. Like they're the Swiss Army knife. They want to be able to use AI, let you use AI on their devices. So they will make chips to allow their devices to be able to run AI of your choice as you wish, when you want, within the softwares that you desire. And that's what they are all about, right? And they want to create this flywheel of create additional revenue in that way. They want to control the interaction layer and not the underlying model. That is the key. That is the key. They want to control the interaction layer. And so they are going to, and they are really good at creating simple, intuitive, useful software or hardware that allows you to use your own software. Now, some of their things have been flops, of course. You have to have some of those. But Macs are easier to use than Windows PCs. iPhones tend to be easier to use than Android. Now, it doesn't have the flexibility, but it's a matter of easy usage for the mass general public. If you're very technical, an Android could be good, right? That's what they're trying to do. So, I think that when you think about what does this mean for us in wealth management is, and then we think about like an AI strategy, what's super interesting for us in wealth management to think about is like, how are our clients going to want to interact with us and via what device? Today, if we think in a linear fashion, it's going to say, well, they're going to interact with us on email, text message, via their iPhone. And that's a very valid argument, but that may not be tomorrow. That's what this means for us. They may interact with us via their Apple glasses and everything of that nature. And we've got to think about, how do we continue to evolve our technological infrastructure as an organization? How do we evolve our communication opportunities and the way that we communicate? Maybe it's not just voice. Maybe it is more video, more personalized. And how do we deliver it? We have to start thinking about, how do we create new delivery mechanisms of content that is personalized for our clients that can fit on different mediums? Voice for pendants, visual for glasses, whatever it may be. And you can still do that on the iPhone, but you got to think about where it may be going. I think that the other aspect of this is that mainly from the investor standpoint, given that this is the investment platforms or an investment industry, we have to understand what Apple is doing. I think our clients are wondering about it, and we need to wonder about it. And I think that this is a shift, at least for me, it's given me clarity of where Apple sits within the AI infrastructure. And they are going to own what they own, as opposed to trying to chase a trend that they aren't really great at, and that they don't care to own. And the reality of it is, yes, there's a lot of money to be funded and a lot of money opportunity in AI models, but they own the consumer. And in order for the consumer to, I access Claude and Chat and Gemini. You know where I access it from? My MacBook Pro and my iPhone. That's what they want to own. I think that's something really good. And I think that, the other aspect is like privacy. We have to continue to think about privacy, right? We have to install really in detail, tight privacy policies within our organization. Privacy continues to be something of high priority. If our communications are now going to go to multiple different types of mediums, and not only are our clients going to interact with that, but our teams are going to likely interact with that, we can't stifle the ability for our team to interact with new technologies. We've got to create the game and the foundational infrastructure to allow them to do that compliantly. And so think about our compliance, our privacy infrastructure, and everything of that nature is something to do. And so that's what I would say as your action steps. Review your privacy policy. Update your compliance manual of how to interact with these LLM tools. And don't just do it once. Create a cadence to work with your compliance team on a quarterly basis, because this information is moving and changing so quickly that we need to update our AI governance policy and review our privacy policy every single quarter. It's just what's needed. And you know what? Here's a tip. You can use AI to help you do it as well. I know, maybe not, but that's just something to think about. All right. Well, as I read through these stories, what I'm realizing is that the AI continues to surprise me of where it's going, but I shouldn't be surprised any longer. AI is just part of who we are nowadays. And it's not a matter of it being scary because it's dealing with our health, or it being scary because it's doing code reviews, or that it's going to be, interacting with us via the glasses we wear, the necklaces that we wear, the rings that we wear. I think it's just a matter of starting to gain acceptance. And it's hard. It's different. It's change. And it feels uncomfortable. And there's a lot of things about it that are out of our control because of a lack of understanding of what it all means. And that's always been concerning. And I'd be lying if I don't ever get concerned about that. But what I encourage all of us to do is the best way to overcome that fear, that worry, that uncomfortable feeling is by doing, is by trying, by learning. The more that we dive in, the more that we play around with these tools, the more that we open our minds to what it could possibly do and test it in a safe way, the more comfortable we get with it. And I'll tell you, that's something that I've been doing over the past 18 months. I'm more comfortable with AI than I've ever been before. And there's still new things that worry me, but the way that I do it is lean into it. So that's what I encourage you to do. Lean in. This month, test out one new thing within AI and see how you feel. Let me know. With that, another edition of AI and Finance is in the books. Stay well, be well, keep on exploring.